Cixi's empire. Cixi was born on November 29th, 1835, in Anhui province. However, as Cixi grew, she struggled to become someone who was loved in her life, mostly by her parents. Her parents never showed any interest in Cixi. She also wanted to become someone with power. So, Cixi and her parents applied to her to be one of the emperor's concubines. For people who don't know what a concubine is, it is a woman who steps in for the empress to produce an heir for the throne. She was elected as the next concubine and was called upon to produce an heir. When she became pregnant, the whole region was overjoyed. When the baby was born, it was declared that it was a boy. Tishi's position proved to be the second highest in power behind the empress. After she gave birth to a boy named Tangji. In 1851, after a year of Tishi being a concubine, the Taipan Rebellion occurred. The Taipan Rebellion was a cult-like group called the God Worshipping Society. The leader, Hong Kong Jing, was a religious fanatic. That is what people thought of him as. This rebellion resulted in the rebels seizing the city of Nanjing. During the Taipan Rebellion, Tiji's son Tangji was born. Tangji was born April 27, 1856. He was the next emperor of China. The Taipan Rebellion lasted till 1850 to 1864.
In July 1864, the Taiping Rebellion was crushed and over with. The end result of the Taiping Rebellion was nearly 20 million deaths by either starvation or bloodshed during the revolt. Their leader, Hong, died a month before the final battle. They dug up his body and burned it. After they burnt his body, they spread his ashes around to make sure his body would have no final resting place. A few years later, in June 1870, the Taijin massacre started. It enraged many foreign powers. During this, priests and ministers had been legally preaching for decades. In many cities, their church steeples competed for space with traditional shrines. Christian missionaries were in fact protected from many Chinese laws by the treaties that followed the Second Opium War. The missionaries protected their converts. As a result, many Chinese criminals suddenly converted to Christianity. 11 years later, Tishi's son died to what they think was poisoning. After his death, Tishi should have been knocked out of office, but when Tishi's son was lying dead, she sent a secret message to Li Hongzhong. Li was a military leader and one of Tishi's most effective aides. She told him to quickly send a battalion of soldiers to Beijing. In the middle of the night, Li's men crept into the Forbidden City. By morning, Tishi had 4,000 loyal soldiers stationed in the middle of the Forbidden City. They captured all the guys who they thought were to be unloyal, which were quickly arrested, tied up, and sent off to prison. While the Forbidden City was under control, Tishi rode out in covered seat in chairs. Their destination was Tishi's sister's house to get her nephew to be the next emperor. Not even 5 years later, the Chinese lost control of Indochina. They lost it due to a war with the French. In March 1889, Tishi retired as regent for Emperor Gongju.
March 1889, Cixi announced her retirement as regent. This left Ganju to rule, as Cixi went to live in the rebuilt summer palace. But for Cixi, retirement means merely giving up on day-to-day duties. She took the great seals with her that were needed to prove important orders. She also reserved the right to review all state documents and to hire and fire officials. Cixi still held tremendous power, and it wouldn't be long before she had used them. 1894, Cixi was about to celebrate her 60th birthday. Instead, the country went to war against Japan, and they lost Korea and what is now present-day Taiwan. Ganju wanted to reform China with Western value, and this aggravated Cixi. September 21st, 1898, she sent troops loyal to her to take over the Forbidden City. Her
Her anxious
her agents
rushed
rushed into Ganju's
chambers
chambers and seized him, and banished Zhang Hu to a life of imprisonment. In 1900, the Boxer Rebellion took place. Cixi supported the rebellion as a way to cleanse the region of reformers. The rebellion was squashed on July 14th, 1900, and her country fled to Beijing in November 1908. Cixi regions came to an end. Cixi died on November 15th, 1908.